What's going on, everybody? Day 8, online workouts, Anytime Fitness, Inspirata. Not apologizing for this, probably should, not gonna do it, okay? Today we're gonna go over mobilization of your shoulder and shoulder blade. 8 muscles attached to your scapula. It's a very important bone and very important muscle group to have control over. And yet 80% of the time, if you watch people train, the people that I train, myself included, as well as people around me that are training, usually don't have the amount of control over their shoulder blade that they should, especially when they're trying to work on building their chest or building their back or anything like that, okay? So stick with me through this video. We're gonna highlight the muscles that attach. We're gonna highlight some of the things that go wrong for people, some of the form flaws, as well as how to correct potential imbalances in your muscles that you currently have and are just frustrated with. One that I'm gonna just go ahead and sneak in here is how many people have a chest that they're just not happy with, right? It's not as big as they want. They work on it, they try so hard, and yet they're not getting it. And some of that comes from, believe it or not, your back and the mobility that you don't have in your shoulders. All right, before we dive into exercises and mobility strength exercises, let's just take a look at the back here, all right? So first layer is the trapezius, upper, middle, and lower, which all have separate responsibilities and yet are one muscle, okay? If we zoom in just a tad here, we can see that we have the rhomboid major muscle, which is a retractor muscle, okay? Brings that border of the scapula closer to the spine, as well as the rhomboid minor, all right? And the levator scapula, which obviously levator elevates the shoulder blade. Coming a little closer and we'll take a look at these sits muscles. That's teres major, and right underneath it, the teres minor, which tends to be very sore. You'll notice that these muscles attach primarily to the humerus, okay, which has everything to do with movement of your arm. So although we're talking about shoulder, okay, remember 8 muscles attached to this shoulder blade, so lots of different movements come from this area, okay, infraspinatus and above the supraspinatus. So those are the sits as well as the subscapularis, which we'll try to zoom in here in a minute. The deltoids, which most people are familiar with as they think that is the shoulder. But we're learning right now that the shoulder is made up far more than just those 3 different sections of that muscle. The pec major doesn't necessarily have to do with too much of the shoulder, but it does have to do, if it's overly tight, with protraction, okay? The pec minor here has to do with depression of the shoulder as well as some upward rotation, okay? Overly tight pecs can be very detrimental, and I'll show you why here in just a minute. Now, let's take a look at the short head of the biceps, which attaches to the coracoid process underneath, okay, in there, if you can see where that yellow ends. All right, so overly tight biceps, they affect the shoulder as well. All right, let's turn around here. We'll look at the back after we look at the, the coracobrachialis as well, which is underneath that short head bicep, attached to the coracoid process as well, okay? And then the long head of the tricep, it might be the long head, let's just take a look. Yep, long head of tricep on the inferior lateral border of the scapula, so attachment to the scapula. And this latissimus dorsi muscle, although it goes over and may not look like it, it does attach to that lower portion of the scapula. The inferior belly of the omohyoid, which I'm going to fade these so you can see, goes through and attaches underneath the jaw, which has to do with you nodding. Let's say you're sitting on the couch and your head's all crunched up on a pillow, or you're laying on a bed and your neck is super far back, okay? So let's go over to the left side of the back where we haven't done anything yet and add some nerves, all right? Because this is a big, big part of it, all right? So get the trap out of the way here. And you'll notice, I'm gonna zoom in here for a second for you. We can take a look at this very simple accessory nerve, all right? And that underneath the trap, but smushed in there with that levator scapula and rhomboid, can be problematic. Oops, let's get rid of that. There we go. I'll zoom in just a little bit further here, and we'll take a look at an even bigger nerve, okay, that causes quite a bit of trouble for people, which is called the dorsal scapular nerve, all right? Now you can see, just looking at it, it's buried under all these muscles. One muscle over tight, all right? One muscle that freaks out, and you could have a pinched nerve in your back, okay? Now I want to get rid of some of these front muscles. It's going to take me a second. I'm going to zoom in here. But what I want you to start to see, and hopefully you already knew this or you're learning it right now, is that there is a huge bundle of nerves that come out of your cervical spine, which is your neck, okay, dives under this collarbone that you probably can see and comes into the arm, okay? The brachial plexus is huge when it comes to, I have tingling down my arm, I have chest pain, it's radiating, right? So if I zoom in here and get rid of some of these neck muscles, you're gonna be able to clearly tell, holy crap, this is a lot of stuff, okay? And now that you have maybe a bit better respect for the shoulder blade and the mobilization that it needs in order to function properly, you'll understand maybe when it doesn't, all these things that can be cut off. So now that we've had a chance to look at the shoulder, kind of dive into the anatomy of it, and talk through some of the issues that you can have if it doesn't function properly, over stimulation, under stimulation, okay, nerve impingement, okay. Now we'll go through just a few different exercises as well as a soft tissue release that you can use to start to get control over this area of your body. All right, scapular retraction with a resistance band. Couple things to note, I'm not bending my elbow as best I can, okay? I'm just trying to gain control over those rhomboid muscles as well as the middle trapezius. Great for strengthening those muscles. I'm going to do this push-up at an incline so that you can see a little bit better, but this can be done on the flat surface. It's just pro and retraction of the scapula push-ups, okay? Notice I'm keeping my arms straight. I'm activating my serratus anterior. I'm activating my chest, obviously, and I'm allowing those muscles that attach to my scapula to get activation. The next thing we're gonna go over is a prone position, okay, reverse fly for our shoulders. I turn and laugh because I am so not flexible. This is very difficult, which tells me I have some imbalances probably in my chest, okay? But again, I'm extending, I'm using my lower back erectors to pull my chest off the ground as best I can and lift and elevate my arms as much as I possibly can. Thank you, Teddy. Here we're in a supine position and I'm just trying to do a serratus, okay, and subscap strengthening exercise where I keep my arms straight, I protract and allow retraction, okay? You notice I put my hand on my serratus because you can feel it flex. All right, great strengthening exercise for that. All right, so a little bit of soft tissue breakdown, okay? Tennis ball on the sits muscles, okay, scapula, leaning against a wall. The lean allows me to control the pressure and the point of pressure that I'm giving to the muscle. All right, gonna do a few different flies, just different angles. All right, pulling at the end with my opposite hand to get a maximum stretch with some arm raises and internal and external rotation at the top, which can be difficult, but allows those muscles to go through full range of motion with the pressure, okay? Now I'm gonna move the tennis ball to the medial border of my scapula, which is between the spine and my scapula, and do a little bit of work on those rhomboid muscles, okay? In the first motion, I'm just going to do a straight fly. The second motion, I'm going to lower my head. That allows for the vertical muscles of my spine to work and to move just like the rhomboids are moving. They don't move the same, so having them move while there's pressure allows to free up some of those nerves that can get pinched, okay? Make sure you don't neglect your chest as well as your back. Okay, so getting against a wall, against something at a corner so you have full range of motion with your arm, putting the tennis ball in your pec major, loosening that up, moving it up a little bit, loosening up the pec minor muscle, okay, will really help to loosen, mobilize that shoulder girdle. Doing arm raises as well is a great way. Remember when we looked at the anatomy model, all those nerves that dive under your collarbone and an overly tight chest can pinch down on, all right? You don't want that problem. So using this foam roller, I'm gonna go ahead and do some soft tissue release on my latissimus dorsi, or my lats, as well as my teres major, okay? Your minor, unless it's really overly tight, probably won't get much work done. Rocking back and forth and moving up and down the foam roller, I can find sore spots in the muscle and give it the work it needs. Using the foam roller to roll up to the middle portion of my upper back, I do some flies and hugs to continue to work on those rhomboids. I'll lean one way or the other to give extra attention to those sides. Okay. Great way to get those without being so intrusive like a tennis ball can sometimes be. And lastly, using that foam roller to simply roll back and forth on my cervical spine, all right? Because remember the anatomy model, lots of muscles attach here, and it's important to give them some love as well.